that is the best thing, like when we are online. So anyway, it's okay, man. I think we just start like
start again.
yeah, okay, no problem. I just want to say that this channel was meant for like my friends who are in the networking and security space. That is the best thing, like when we are online. So yeah, so I was saying that so you're a network engineer or you're doing security, feel free to join us, have a drink, right? So that's why I have a drink at the what do you call that, my banner, right? So prepare your drink. Sometimes we will do labs, sometimes we will just chit chat and things like that. So yeah, I wouldn't say like I invited my friend over, like we know each other for 5 years now, right? So we got to know each other from VMware.
Before that,
yeah, even before that we know each other. So just a little intro about myself. Networking security specialist at VMware, serving the Southeast Asia and Korea region. So mostly doing all the virtual cloud networking stuff. Yeah, and yeah, over to you, Kian Wah. Why don't you introduce yourself?
So thanks, Vincent. Thanks for having me. Yeah, so hi, my name is Kian Wah. So right now I'm working as a solutions architect in Amazon Web Services, or AWS in short. So I'd like to make a disclaimer here. So everything I say here is all my personal opinion. It's not related. I'm not representing AWS in any way.
Yeah. So so today I just want to make it like a little more relaxed and things like that, right? And we kind of going. Today's topic is on virtual labs, right? As well as some of the Nsx certification, right? So I thought maybe we should talk about a little bit of our career, right? Then we can go into showing you a bit on like how we actually progress to like what we do, what we call virtual labs today. And I'm going to introduce to you some of the labs that we actually use when we are when he's at VMware, when I'm doing demos to customers and even prepare for my certification, right? So I'm going to show you a little bit on what's the virtual labs that we have been talking about. Yeah, so why not we start talking about like some just chit chat about networking and things like that. So since we are on the topic of labs, let's talk about how you started, when you started with labs, home labs or physical labs, what's your opinion and things like that.
Yeah, okay, maybe I'll start with some introduction about how I started my career in networking. So I started learning networking sometime back in, I would say 2003, I think. Yeah, so at that time I was introduced to networking. I became very interested. That's how I decided to learn more about networking. So in 2003, I studied and also took the CCNA, or Cisco Certified Network Associate exam. I still remember the exam code is 640607.
Wow.
Yeah, that was 2003. So in this exam, there was something called a simulation exam. So we are required to enter commands inside. So it was this simulation is made of Flash. So because of that, we have to, in order to prepare for the exam, we have to do some hands-on practice.
I see.
So at that point in time, that was back in 2003. I think there was only a few simulators in the market.
Yeah.
If you do not use simulators, you have to buy your own hardware, which is very expensive.
Correct.
Yeah. So that was back in 2003. So after I passed my CCNA, my mentor at that time persuaded me to just go for CCIE straight. Yeah. So as you know, CCIE is a very hands-on exam, requires a lot of hands-on practice. So at that point in time, there was no emulation. Yeah. So there was simulation, but it's not good enough for CCIE. So at that point in time, that was back in 2004.
Yeah.
So how we actually do practice is people do offer something called rack rentals online. So they have Cisco equipment available online and we can access it at a fee. So I still remember the package. The session is like 11.5 hours at a time. And it cost me about almost $100 US, 80 over US, something for 11.5 hours. Of course, there are also other packages like 5-6 hours, but most of the time I go for 11 hours because it's a lot. Make more sense.
I see.
Yeah, so so that was back in 2004. So I attempted my CCIE back in 2004, but unfortunately I didn't pass. So I realized that one of the problems that I have is because I go for rack rental, I sped through the lab. Yeah, so I didn't really understand.
What's sped through the lab?
Sped.
Or sped through the lab.
Or speed through the lab.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I realized I didn't really understand the concept behind run. Rather, I just try to finish the lab as fast as possible because the labs the rack rental is very expensive, so that's why I try to finish as much as I can. And as a result, my fundamentals isn't very strong.
I see.
And I failed my lab. It was back in 2004. So I realized this problem, and to do that, I thought of buying in my own Cisco hardware. I mean, those old routers. So at that point in time, I remember I bought like 2500 series router. Yeah, so 2500 series router, there's no, for most models, there's no Ethernet port. So we need to buy a AUI. I can't remember what does it stand for. AUI, plug it in and connect the Ethernet port.
Auxiliary something interface. Right?
Yeah. So that was back in 2004, 2005. So at that point in time, 3500 series was, I'll say, fairly cheap. I spent like a few $100s only to buy one. Yeah, so I bought quite a few. I think I bought like 8 to simulate the CCIE lab. Yeah, then as time goes by, I also upgraded some of my routers from 2500 to 2600 and later 2800 series. Yeah, so now with my own hardware, I managed to slowly, I learned the fundamentals of networking more properly this time and managed to pass my CCIE back in 2005. Yeah, and also to help others, I also did rack rentals as well. Because I realized that one problem is that in APJ region, there's not much rack rental services provided. So since I'm in Singapore, might as well just do it.
Yeah, I remember. Right, Acer Star, right?
Yeah, that was back in the old days. Yeah, so for me, I can provide support better, and also latency is a lot better for those people in the
I remember region. Like those, trying to access labs in the US. Quite laggy.
Right. So that was back in 2004, 2005 period. Yeah, then I also bought a 42U rack.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So as time goes by, my lab also got upgraded. I remember I have a Catalyst 6503.
Wow.
Yeah.
Having that at home?
Yeah,
really?
at home. Yes.
Okay.
And I can't turn on all my Cisco hardware at one time because it will cause a power trip in my house. I have to turn it on, let it stabilize first so the power consumption goes down. Then I can turn on the rest of the equipment. Yeah, so
yeah. You kind of brought me down to memory lane, and I did quite the same. Initially was trying out with just those simulators. Those are good for CCNP and
CCNP.
But once you want to deep dive a little bit more to the technical work, I mean to understand the concept, right? That's what you say is like, while doing labs, you really need to enter the command and then do the verification to see what exactly you are configuring. Exactly. So that's where I think the hardware helps. So for me, I did a combination of both, right? And I did I bought, because there's no way to simulate switches last time, right? Like the switching modules, there has a switching module in, like, for example, like GNS3 or Dynamics, right? But then you can't do I remember you can't do those very fanciful things like what you call it, Q in Q, right?
Q in Q.
Yeah, those kind of things you can't really do it on the virtual switches and things like that. So that's why I have to bought switches to learn, and some of the spanning protocols are actually not there in the switches, right? So that's how I got. I think the first switch I got was a proper Cisco switch was a 3550.
3550, that's very good. I think mine was like 1900.
Yeah, and I use it as a combination of connecting the switches to a virtualization software where you run GNS3 on it, and then you can from there you can run like multiple virtual routers, right? But those are like full-fledged iOS routers running in virtual machines.
Yeah, those are emulation.
Yeah, correct. And no, I think later on, I think Cisco did release like iOS for x86 or something like that. Yeah, But yeah, I think those are like still simulation, but it's good enough for like CCIE practice and others. Because I those routers, right, especially I think my time was using like 2800 series already. Yeah, so those routers were still very expensive. Yeah, and yeah, so that's why now we are talking about labs and all this, right? Right now, yeah, I'm sure and I mean, since we are on topic of like doing virtualization, like how we virtualize the router and all this, right? I think it's time to talk about like how we actually step into the virtual networking world and things like that. Right? Yeah.
Yeah. So back in, I think that was when 2014 or so, I got introduced to this concept called the virtual networking. So initially it was like open SDN, software defined networking, and some other things. Then at that point in time, I was doing quite a bit of VMware because my company, I mean, at my ex-company at that point in time, we are a reseller of Cisco VMware. So at that point in time, I was looking for a system integrator. So we resell many things. So I found this concept of virtual networking. I thought it was very interesting, and also some customers are starting to ask for it. Do you remember something like open flow, open daylight, those kind of things?
Yeah,
where you have a centralized controller, then push down the control information, I mean the switching information to the data plane. Yeah, then later on I mean VMware bought over this company called Nsx. That was 2013 or something.
Correct.
Yeah, then in 2014 they did they released Nsx. I can't remember.
Yeah. So they packaged it up and they rebranded the virtual I don't know, VCNS, like virtual cloud networking security.
That was the visual era.
Yeah, the visual era, correct. Yeah.
Then after that, they bought over Nicira, they package everything to NSX.
Correct, exactly. Yeah.
So at that point in time, 2014, I remember it was Q3, I think. Then VMware released this NSX thing. I was very interested, went to try it out. And also at that point in time, 2014 Q4, VMware also released this Nsx certification, the VCIX. So it was the first VCIX certification. So VCIX stands for VMware Certified Implementation Expert. So it's a full hands-on lab certification, similar to the VCAP deploy certification.
Yeah, I remember they were like, if you are a CCIE or something like that, they give you some waiver, right? And you can just go straight to the VCIX, right?
Right. So one of the prerequisites for VCIX is either you need the VMware Certified Professional, the VCP, or you can have a CCIE.
Correct.
Yeah.
I think I took the same path as well, right? So I saw you like getting your cert, and I was like, okay, maybe I should take the certification. But I took a long time.
So that was back in 2014. So I took the exam back in, I think, November of 2014. So I didn't know, I actually took the exam like 3 days after you got GA. So I happened to be one of the first few people to pass in this region. To be the second, I think.
I think the first guy was in Malaysia.
First guy was in Malaysia, yes.
I think I was like maybe the 4th or 5th guy.
So that was back in 2014. So after that, I realized that virtualization is the way to go. Both virtual machine virtualization and also the networking virtualization. And back in 2015, VMware actually contacted me if I'm interested to join them. So I thought, since I think virtualization is the way to go and VMware is the leader, so why not? So I gave it a shot, managed to get in. So that's how I joined the VMware Professional Services back in 2015. And because my background is in networking, so my focus is in the virtual networking space, which is NSX. So throughout the years, we see a lot of changes. We have a lot of major changes in NSX, right? NSXV, NSXT, change in architecture and so on. It's very interesting.
I see. So, for myself, again, you brought me back to my memory, right? So for me, I mean, I'm not new to VMware, right? My first VMware was like the VMware player, right? Where I have a Linux machine and I want to create a Windows machine on a Linux machine, and that's how I got started with like virtualization and things. And then later on during my pre-sales days in one of the system integrator, right? Then I started to do like voice, and then that's where Cisco start releasing
the
Call Manager in OVA. Then you have the Cisco ASA in OVA, and that makes like when I was trying to learn all these different components, right, in the networking world, right, even wireless controller and all these are in OVA. Right, so those were back in the times when like 2012, 2013. That's when
2012 and 2013.
yeah, 2010, I would say they really started doing.
2010 is not doing player, right?
No, not player.
Okay.
I'm talking about
the OVA.
player was like what? Maybe in the 2003, 2004. They really have the VMware player, right?
Yeah.
That's what I remember. Like those were the ESX days, right?
Yeah, yes.
Or they call it what, GSX, something like that.
Yeah,
that
GSX.
That was the first version of like the server virtualization, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So yeah, I didn't have much experience with VMware workstation, but there's a lot of people who created like virtual labs with VMware workstation and things like that, right? Yeah. So but like because we do quite a fair bit of like Nsx and things like that, and Nsx you can't really run an VMware workstation, right?
Yeah.
So that's where we had to rely a lot on the virtual lab. So yeah, I mean, I kind of saw the same trend, right? Where I saw like, because I was doing a lot of Cisco stuff and they were actually virtualizing all the appliances. And I thought like, that's the new trend, right? And same thing, like I saw you getting a certification and I was interested in SDN and NSX and things like that. And those days you can't really get a software from VMware, right? The OVA. You need somebody who's working in VMware and then you start getting the software from them and things like that. Yeah. So that's how I got started with NSX, play around with the labs and things like that. Yeah. And those days the virtual labs, the hands-on labs, right, wasn't that established and things like that.
Yeah, I think just started not too long ago.
Correct. Yeah. So I think, and I like to build the lab myself. So that's why I need the software and actually install it on my own hardware and things like that. That's where we started to get home labs and things like that. Going.
Yeah, so maybe I'll talk a bit about the labs. So before joining VMware, my company we do have a lab set up, Cisco UCS servers, full-fledged kind of lab set up that I use it for my CCIE data center. Yeah. So back in 2014, I actually leveraged on this same lab to actually practice my NSX, to do my NSX configuration and everything.
Yeah.
But after joining VMware, of course, I lose access to the labs in my previous company. So VMware, we do have our own internal lab, but I find the experience isn't very good. So as a result, initially I bought a gaming laptop with 32 gigs memory with very fast SSD and so on. Yeah. But I realized that 32 gig is
not enough, right?
Totally not enough to set up a decent NSX lab. So as a result, I went to look for some hardware to buy. So I came across this Supermicro super server concept, which is a very small, like mini ITX.
Mini tower, right?
Yeah, mini ITX. Yeah. So I actually bought one of them. So it came with 8-core Xeon CPU, 128 gigs of memory. Yeah. And as time goes by, I realized that having one of these is also not enough. Yeah, because in VMware, I will set up like multi-site kind of deployment. So one server with 128 gig of memory is not enough. So I think like a few months later, I bought my second one. Similar configuration. Yeah, so I managed to use those two servers to do my labs for, I think, like 3 to 4 years more. Yeah. Then as time goes by, the size of VMware appliance also getting bigger and bigger. Right? Yeah, there's more and more things. So two servers is also not enough. Yeah, I think back in 2019, I bought my third server. Yeah, this one's a different one. It's a smaller unit, but also comes with 8-core CPU and also 128 gigs of RAM. Yeah, I also bought the Cisco 1G switch. Later I moved on to 10G switch to do all this. Yeah. So for myself, I also have a Synology for my iSCSI and also the NFS storage.
I see.
Yeah, so I use those labs. So actually, I still have those servers in my home today.
Oh, okay.
I haven't
okay.
Yeah, I haven't powered it on for a while because now I don't need it. Now everything's in the cloud.
You can donate to me, man.
Yeah, I'm thinking. Yeah, so that's my experience with the labs. But to supplement that, we also have hands-on lab, which I think over the years it has gotten a lot better. Things are a lot faster now.
Correct.
There's also more labs.
Yeah.
Of course, you're kind of restricted as to what you can do.
Yeah.
Yeah, like cannot.
But it's really meant for like people who wants to try out our software, try out the VMware software, and
yes,
quickly get away without like setting up everything and things like that. Of course, if you want to deep dive on some of the technologies and things like that, right? Then of course you have to go do the deployment and try it out, installation and things like that.
Yes.
But I think if you just want to try out the features and maybe just show some demos, or just to understand like some concepts and things like that, I think it's good enough to try it out. So yeah, I'm nothing secretive. I'm going to show you hands-on lab a bit in a while time. Yeah. So but maybe before that, I share a little bit like my experience, right? I actually had the same thing, right? At my Supermicro servers, like, but at that time we were doing like what SDDC and things like that. And that is actually requires like like vSAN and things like that. So that actually requires more power and all this kind of thing, right? Like so I actually have like the Supermicro E300, and I have like 4 units of them, right? And I put the cache and all this inside there, the NVMe cache and all this. So that's how I built my SDDC. I didn't buy the 10 gig switches, but I wanted to test things like BGP and all this kind of thing. So that's why I went to buy the Nexus 3K. I think those were really a steal. I mean, even though I'm VMware, but there's many customers who are still using like Cisco infrastructure and all this, right? Yeah, you want to test VPC, you want to test BGP and all this, that still requires a little bit of hardware.
Correct. Yeah.
I mean, of course, you can use virtual routers like Viata routers and all this to test, but I like the real hardware.
Yeah, the price of the Nexus, I remember, was like
Dropped a lot,
1,000 plus. At that time, at the point, like 1,000 plus US dollars.
At that time, I bought it was just like what, $700.
Oh, $700. Okay.
Okay, so that's about how we did our virtual labs and things like that, right? So
you can talk about certifications.
Maybe we can talk a little bit about certification. I think we did talk a little bit about it, like when we started off with our VCIX, right? We didn't have to do the VCP because both of us were like CCIE, and we do have VCP software. But I do have VCAPs as well, like in data in DCV. So those were like the the vSphere, vCenter, the SRM and stuff like this, right? So those I think they also exempted or something like that, right? Yeah.
Any VCP.
Great. So I mean, after our VCIX, I think when I joined in, and I always wanted to do a VCDX even before I joined VMware, right? So I think then my manager was like saying, hey, since you joined the Nsx team, you have to do like VCDX in network virtualization, right? Not other factors.
Of course.
So that's how I started my journey with VCDX, and I think since I know that you are in VMware and things like that, and I think we also started our study group on VCDX and things like that, right?
How many people were in our study group?
I think we managed to have like another guy in EMEA, and I mean we have many mentors and things like that, right? So we kind of like 4 or 5 people. We even have people in the US to help us with VCDX, right?
Yes, correct.
So
you want to go through the Nsx certifications first?
Yeah, so maybe like we can
share your screen.
Yeah, let me share my screen here. So this is on the VMware certification, right? You can see this is the VCP one, and so they had the now they have this year added to it, right?
Because it doesn't expire now.
So I think they just want to see when you actually get it, right? And now this is the new batch that you get, right? So do comes to the VMware education page to see like what kind of certification and look at what kind of training you want to have and things like that, right? So this is the path, right? I think So this is, you have the VCA, you have the VCP, and then the VCIX. Previously, the VCIX was only one paper, but now, if you want a VCIX, you actually have to do both the design and the deploy right now, right? And then, of course, if you want to go, then you need to go for a defense, submit the design, go for the defense, and that's where they will provide you with the VCDX batch. Yeah. So, yeah, any experience or any comments you want to share on the certification part?
Okay, so I took my VCIX back in 2014. So after I did not do my VCIX anymore. Yeah. So maybe I'll share your VCDX. Do you want to share any experience with
VCDX?
VCIX, or VCIX, did you take the?
I didn't do the design part because then was only the deploy, and I can straight go into and my deploy was based on NSXV.
Same.
Now like most of the certification today is all on NSXT, right?
Yeah.
And and also from the labs perspective, they have refreshed all the labs into NSXT. Yeah. And
Can we talk about VCDX experience?
VCDX, it's I only passed it on my third attempt, right? So the first attempt was kind of like disaster where
I remember your first attempt.
I didn't know what to start, and I went in with a fictitious design, and it was a very small setup. You can't really demonstrate my skills. Yeah, so that's where I think the feedback from the defense really helped, right? So the feedback the panelists gave and all this was really good. And maybe one thing, for me, right, personally, what I really like about the VCDX is a very transparent thing, right? And it's an interview process. So it's kind of like training you to become more like an architect.
Yes,
right?
Definitely.
And so it's something that, for me, I always want to be an architect, right? So whether is it in terms of soft skill or writing skills that is required of an architect, I want to have those skills as well. So I thought like VCDX was a right certification for me to go ahead and just to improve myself on those skills. And that's the whole motivation behind why I wanted to do VCDX and all this kind of thing. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah. So So I spent about 3 years.
When did you start? I can't remember when you started.
I started almost immediately. I joined VMware. I joined VMware in 2016. But I took about 1 year to kind of settle down, get really deep dive into Nsx, really understand what's network introspection and things like that, right? And then understand all the integration points with Horizon and all this kind of thing. And then I think the real work really started in 2017. That's where we formed the study group and really do design reviews, right? Write the documentation, do design reviews, and then go for mocks. We do quite a lot of mocks. And then I remember before our defense, we go for the 2018 defense. Yeah. And then we almost had 30 over sessions of mocks, here and there.
Oh, so many, I can't remember. Maybe we break out into two parts. We talk about the design that we need to submit first.
Correct. So okay, so there's 5 documentation you actually need to write.
We need to submit a lot of documentation, yes.
And also you need to write the design doc, the UAT document, the SOP, the implementation plan. What's the other one?
I can't remember.
I remember already. So there's 5 documents that you actually need to submit, and it revolves around all the
project plan, I think.
Project plan, So we need to submit all these 5 documents, and then go through the panelists. The panelists will go. One of the panelists, right?
One of the panelists.
With the VCDX, they were kind of
grade.
Grading and says okay, there's a minimum score, and if you pass the minimum score, then okay, you can go for your defense.
Yes.
Yeah. So that was the process for the design part.
How long do you take for this first part?
First part, I think it took me almost 9 months, I would say.
9 months.
Yeah, but but I don't, I don't do it every day, right?
Oh,
To write the documentation. But if you ask me, if you want to do it like almost every day, I think 2 months is a good.
2 months. Okay, I did mine about 2 months, so I spent most of my weekends doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like I'm a day. I like to do it on the day basis. Like, I assign like every Monday or every Friday. That says like, okay, I tell my boss like, please give me time to work on this and things like that. And they were kind enough, right? To let me study. So yeah, that's how I do it. Because it's very hard for me to like do every day, right? There's a lot of distraction and things like that. So yeah, I mean, there's no like hard and fast rule, right? So you find what's comfortable for yourself. And I know like people in the US, they just do like 1 hour a day. They just commit like, maybe before dinner time or something like that. Then yeah, they just start to write the documentation and things like that. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I think for me 1 hour a day a bit hard. Because once I get my engine, it takes some time to get my engine started. Yeah. So once my engine starts, I'll have to run for a while.
I see.
1 hour is a bit short for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let me see if there's anything to add. Yeah, so anything you want to talk about the architecture design document?
Architecture design document. Yeah. So to me, like, I've been doing like the physical networking design, right? Then when it comes to the VMware world, right, the way they do design is like slightly different, right? Because they look at the design characteristics and all this, right? So like,
AMPRS.
Yeah, availability, performance, and everything. So I have to learn those things and really understand the definition of what it actually means, right? Then look into like requirements
gathering.
Yeah. So those things that you actually learn in the VCIX design. Yeah. So previously in the Nsx track, right, the certification, they actually don't have a design track. So in order for you to learn that, you actually have to go for the
VCAT one.
The VCD one, the data center virtualization, where they teach you how to actually do a design. Right, the VMware methodology, where they look at requirements, constraints, assumption, and risk. So for me, it's those things were new to me, and I actually have to really like put in effort in learning what are those, like how to really differentiate what is a requirement and a constraint. So it's I mean, with deliberate practice and all this, that's how I get better and better each day and day by day to know what exactly all this, right? And I think those things really help in my day-to-day work as well, right? When I discuss things with customers, like to find out what's their requirements and constraints, right? And things like that. Yeah, so those were the important one, and I think it's more of like the sequential things, right? You need to have these first before you start working on the rest of the document. If not, you will find yourself like keep going back to the first section if you do not have firm up your requirements and constraint and assumption and risk. So yeah, that's what I would like to say about the architecture document. And the other one, I think we had a lot of debate, is the virtual networking and physical networking part in the
exam blueprint.
In the exam blueprint.
Yeah.
Like I think when VMware says like physical networking, I don't think they really meant the hardware and all this, right? Yeah, you need to have those knowledge and things like that, but I don't think they requires you to do a full design on the physical network. Yeah, but of course, if you are a system integrator and things like that, right, then of course you have to, if you are delivering the physical network, then of course you can put in the design for it, right? There's no harm putting in the design, but it's not a requirement at all. But I think the physical networking, that what VMware version refer to, is like the VNIC, right? And the virtual switches inside the host and this kind of thing. So that's what they're actually referring to. Yeah.
I see.
And of course the interface to the physical switches, and basically that's like top of rack switches, and that's about it, right? Yeah.
No, correct. Anything outside is okay.
Yeah. Correct. And it doesn't need to be Cisco, right? It can be it's a vendor neutral type of design. Yeah.
Yes. So okay. Yeah. So for myself, I actually learned a lot during this process. Because in VMware I was doing professional services, so actually the process is actually very similar. So we gather requirements, assumptions, constraints, risks.
Yeah.
After that, we proceed with the design. Then we have to balance everything through the AMPRS. What customer wants first. Is it customer wants security over manageability and so on.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so throughout this process, I actually learned a lot how to refine my design approach. And also, because when we do our design decisions, we have to compare with all this, the AMPRS, whether does it benefit availability, does it benefit manageability, or does it bring down security and so on. And from there, we have to decide which is the best option to choose.
It kind of forces you to think, right?
Yeah, forces you to think. Yeah, so for myself, my boss in VMware, he's also a VCDX, so it's also very encouraging for us to actually go for it. Yeah, but doing a VCDX actually takes out a lot of effort. So a lot of people say they want to do it, but in the end, actually not many people actually really started the journey. Yeah, so one of the problems is how can we actually ask more people to actually do this VCDX?
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. Right now we talk about the second part, the actual defense itself.
Yeah, let me show the camera a bit. Yeah, I realize that is okay. Yeah, the defense part is like I think I think it is a kind of like mystery to a lot of people. Like, what's the after you go in the room, like what do you expect, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe you can share a little bit like basically there's a 3 panelists inside there, and there's a moderator, and you go in there, and you basically you're given 75 minutes to do your
60 first, no, sorry, 75 first, second part and 60.
No, second part is 30 minutes only.
Second part, no, second part is
30 minutes, just 30 minutes whiteboarding, right?
I think 75, 45 is it? Total is 2 hours.
No, not so long, only 30 minutes.
30 minutes, okay.
So 75 minutes you have to do like your presentation, and then after that, you go through your design, and then the panelists then will ask you questions, and then for them, the panelists will start marking, scoring you and all this. And they are there to help you. So they want to give you points to pass. And and then after that they will feed in their feedback to the scoring rubric and all this kind of thing. And then they will have a final score. And if you match the minimum score to pass, then they will give you the certification. Right. So that's the presentation part. Then of course there's a whiteboarding where you need to be like an architect, and then the panelists now will become like customers. Then you have to go and ask them, hey, what are your requirements? What kind of design you need? Then you go to the whiteboard using a whiteboard, and then do the design on the whiteboard, and then you present your solution to them.
Yeah, present as you draw.
Correct. Which is quite a hard thing to do, right?
Very intensive for me. Yeah, the 30 minutes just flew by. And then so after your first presentation, you have a 15 minutes break, I think.
10 minutes break.
10 minutes break,
Yeah, it's just to settle yourself, like
just take a
bio break and get some water, and then off you go again, right? So it's actually I would say that it's equally intense like the CCIE lab. It's just that the nature of the exam is a bit different, right? CCIE is like, you have to go there and lab, right? But in 8 hours, for me it's 8 hours, not 11.5. Then later on,
the actual exam is 8 hours, but my lab session, my rack rental
is 11.5, okay. And so when I was training for my CCIE, it's like I forced myself to finish the lab in 6 hours so that I can do the presentation. Right. Then for VCDX it's a bit different, right? It's like it's more like presentation and then whiteboarding and all this. So I think the perseverance and the skill set of a CCIE, where the practice and all this, those things I think is like transferable, right? You can use those kind of mindset to work on VCDX. But the skill that you require, right, is a bit different, right?
Yes, you require to think very fast on your feet.
Think on your feet and things like that.
So for the design scenario, you're given a brand new scenario that you've never seen before, and then you have to design. You have to do a logical design based on that. You do not need to complete the entire design, but at least need to reach the virtual networking part or something.
I think why you are given a different one is, I think from the panel, I don't know, this is my thing, in my opinion, right? The panelists want to see the overall aspects of you as an architect. So maybe they think that your presentation, your design that you submitted, there is some portion that they don't have enough points to give you scoring, and that's why I think they will help you in the whiteboarding portion, right?
Correct.
And that's why you always like, oh, something is different from my design, right? And,
yes. So they will test you things that you did not put in your original design, but is required in the blueprint.
correct, correct. Yes. Yeah, everything is in the blueprint, right?
Yes.
So do read the blueprint. Whatever exams that Nsx certification you want to take, right? Yeah, read the blueprint. Yeah. Yeah, the blueprint is like
The Bible.
yeah, correct.
Okay.
Okay, I mean, we are like kind of like 15 minutes left. I thought maybe it's a good time to like show the labs and things like
the
that.
hands-on labs.
Yeah. So I actually had go in and allocate some labs to for the guys who's online. So if you're watching this recorded, these labs I believe is available until the next 3 days, right? So these are the few labs. These are hands-on lab. You can actually search all these labs online as well, right? You do not need to use my landing page. So I will paste the landing page into the chat, right? And you can actually use this and access all these labs. So for me, I'm just going to show you this Nsx virtual labs over here, right? So you can just enroll, and then you have to put in your username and password. So I'm going to use my username and password. You can start this lab. Now this is what I talk about, right? If you didn't allocate the lab, then this is gonna you gotta wait. Yeah.
Okay, so how long does it take to deploy? 28 seconds.
Yeah. I think if there's no if you never pre-provision the lab, I think it's gonna take like what, 2 minutes.
Take a few minutes.
Yeah,
Take
a few minutes. Yeah, because it is I mean, hands-on lab is the actual software. It's just that it's all virtualized, right? And they have this lab guide over here on the right hand side over here. So if you do not know where to start and things like that, you can actually use the lab guide and guide you through. Yeah. So so you can see the lab is ready, right? And you can actually just give you an intro on the lab itself. So if you do not have an account, you need to register yourself first.
It's totally free.
Yeah, it's totally free. You do not need to pay for it, right? And maybe I should show you the URL for it, right? So this is the URL if you don't want to use the landing page, and if you want to search for the lab, you can use the same code, which is 2126, right? And and you can actually this is what I'm actually using, right? So you can search, there's many labs over here. So if you go to the virtual, like for example, you want to learn the virtual cloud networking, right? You can see that all the labs are over here. You can actually use it. All these labs are free of charge, right? And that's where we don't even need to buy the hardware anymore and all this. You get access to labs. So back to the hands-on lab. This is how you get started. I'm just going to do like a quick module over here, like just to show you how to access the labs and all this. So so from here, these are all the different modules. So this lab is on NSXT, and what I'm going to do is this logical switching lab, which is only 15 minutes to do, right? Just to show you how to actually start off with all these labs. So basically, this module is just setting up a logical switch, and then you connect a virtual machine to it, and then you just do some ping tests to see that you actually have successfully created.
So what was a logical switch?
So the easiest way to explain that is what's a VLAN?
No,
So instead of the VLAN sitting in a virtual physical switch, this VLAN is sitting in a virtual switch.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's okay. So we want to differentiate, and that's why I think the name comes about, right? It's a logical switch. Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, how do you actually create a VLAN, right?
Just go to the switch, or go to some management console and create, and you will propagate down.
Yeah, but of course there's things like VTP and all this kind of thing that helps you to propagate the VLAN of all this, right? So in the case of here, it's like, we have, these are all like hypervisors, and these are like the EXXI switches and all this, right? So these are the virtual switches over there. Yeah. So when you create the VLAN, for example, or you create the logical switch, right? I mean, although there's multiple virtual switch here, it's just like VTP, right? You don't have to create it on every virtual switch that is sitting inside the virtual host, right? And then of course we go to the concept of like a distributed switch. Yeah, there is a virtual switch in every host. It's just that the management of it, right, is centralized, right? It's orchestrated, and all you need is just create once, and you will just propagate down to the different hypervisor. So there we go. We're going to log into, we're going to follow the lab a bit. So there is some documentation here, like if you want to understand what's a logical switch and all this, they do explain to you a bit, right? And from here, this is the screenshot, right? Yeah, so you just see step 1, step 2, and step 3, and they guide you on where you're supposed to connect to, right? So I'm going to log into the Nsxt Manager. Okay, so let's log in. Oh yeah, so you want all the password and everything. I mean, the first module will tell you all the instruction on how to access and all this, but from here you also can see, like, usually there's a readme, and you can actually see all the password from here, right? So for me, the Nsx Manager is this password, and you can actually use it and copy and paste into other labs.
I think you didn't copy it.
I did?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
See.
Okay, now let me type it.
Can I like RDP inside here?
No, not for customers, but VMware folks, you can.
I
Yeah.
see.
Okay, so basically you just need to follow the instruction over here, right? They ask you to go to the networking tab, segments,
Networking tab, segments, okay.
and then just add a segment. Okay. And then you click on add segment, it will give you the information over here.
Okay, so step-by-step instruction with screenshots out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think I think my browser doesn't support. You can actually take this and then just drag it over, and it will type it for you. So from here is the tier 0 gateway, right? And you need to put in this transport zone. So logical switch is like an overlay network. Of course, Nsxt supports like VLAN network as well, right? So you don't need to create an overlay. So type in the address. Right, so this is like how you actually configure a SVI interface, right?
Oh, yes, yeah, okay.
And after that, you just save it. Okay, so this is how you add a segment, and there you go. Like, it's a bit the same, like, logging a switch and putting a segments there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Of course, in the SDN world, everything has a controller, right? So the Nsx Manager is a controller where it can, all this can be called via API, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
the
not
new
just
Nsx Manager is a management and control plane.
correct, exactly. And then after that, you can save it. Yeah, we already did it. Okay, and then you can see that it's over here. It's just that the ports is 0 right now because there's no VMs or anything that's connected to it, right? So yeah. Oh, the other thing, like, I noticed this because I do a lot of like NSX experience days and things like that, where we get networking folks coming in and all this. That to them, right, one of the things is like some of them like have never accessed a vCenter before.
Yeah, that's very common. Yeah.
So So yeah, so maybe it's good to maybe go into the hands-on lab, right? Maybe start off with some like vSphere labs, like get yourself familiarized with like these centers. Yeah, but it's not that difficult, right? All you need to know is like, okay, this is how you log into the vCenter, these are the hosts, right? These are all the virtual machines, right? This is where you find the storage, and this is this is why you see all the networking, right? With all the distributed switches. So you can see that I created this logical switch in NSX, right? So it kind of like, there's some role and responsibility kind of thing here, right? When the network guy, let's say you are managing NSX, you go in and create a network, just like how in the physical world, like you create a VNet and then you pass it to the system guy or the server admin to say that, okay, this is the network you can use. So it's kind of like similar concept over here. And from here, like, okay, how do I attach the virtual server, right? The VMs into here. So okay, you can proceed. So basically the instruction is to so they ask you to log into the vCenter, which I already did. Okay. And then these are the navigate to the hosts and clusters, right? Then you click on this web virtual machine. It's shut down right now. So the action that I'm going to do is like, plugging in the network cable into the server, right? And connect it to the top of rack switches. It's basically the same concept. It's just that it's mouse click right now. So you go edit settings, right? Yeah, go over here. And right now you can see here, we can connect to the click on browse. Just follow the instruction here. And there you go. You can look for the new switch that you created.
Okay, seems very easy. Just click.
Yeah. And there you go. You connected to the switch.
See.
Yeah, then the next step is kind of like just power it on.
Okay, so maybe one question. For people who have been trained with physical networking like Cisco, how do you think is it easy for them to move to this virtual networking space?
I mean, I wouldn't say it's easy, right? There's definitely things that you need to learn, right? But what I can say is not something that is totally new, right? The networking and the security concepts that you have, right, are there. For example, like if you go to the Nsx module, right, you see the like tier 0 gateway and tier 0 gateway. I mean, they used to call routers and all this, right? But I mean, they just want to be more consistent with the VMware cloud, the AWS style, and things like that, where they use like gateways over there. So basically, these are routers, right? So the concept of routers are not going away and things like that, right? The networking knowledge are not going away. So you go in here, you click on edit, right? You can see all the options over here, right? So you see like routing,
VPN, VRM, okay,
yeah,
those
like
are very
BGP, yeah, all these are all very networking stuff, right? Like, like that day I was configuring adding a segment into here, and the customer is using BGP, right? So and we were quite afraid of like putting in the network because there were some private segments and overlap segments and we don't want to advertise that. So like we're thinking like, okay, well, how can we do this and things like that? So if you had done it in the physical networking world, it's like using route maps, prefix, and all this. All these are the same over here, right? You can actually put in like route maps and prefix inside here and actually associate it with it, like that prefix
route
list,
maps.
Yeah, route maps and all this. So the concepts are the same, right?
Yeah,
so
BGP is still BGP.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's if I want to label it easy, I think that's the easy part.
Okay.
Yeah. Of course, the UI and all this, people might not get. You need to get yourself familiarized with that, right? And then NAT is NAT, VPN like L2 VPN, L3 VPN, IPsec and all this, right? I don't think these are differences. Like DHCP, you need to associate a pool of it, right? And then if you go to security, like distributed firewall, where you have like source, destination, and things like that. All this are like, it's nothing new, right? So I think it's just a little bit of like, I mean, in networking field, right? It's almost like you are learning. I mean, you have a lot of products, right? I mean, there's a concept of best of breed products, and you start learning like F5, start learning like Riverbed and things like that. I mean, over the years, you have learned many products, or even like InfoBox for DNS and things like that, right? So to you, it should be just like another product, like, you just need to learn and things like that. But the networking concept and all this are still the same.
I see. Okay, since now the networking is collapsed inside the virtualized space, how about for people who are the systems team? Do you think it's easy for them to go into the networking space?
Yeah. I mean, it's nothing is impossible if they really want to learn and things like that, right? But I think it's just harder for them, right? Because it's going to be, there will be more things to learn, right? I mean, if they don't have the networking fundamentals and things like that, then it's going to be harder for them. Yeah. Then of course, then they have to spend more time learning in the networking fundamentals, right? And then from there, then you start understanding, okay, when I configure a BGP, what does it actually means at the back end, right? And then how do you actually check the verification? So for example, I'll give you an example, right? Once you configure this, if you don't access to the physical routers, right? How do you actually check, like, are you advertising the right routes? So if you have done BGP, there is this thing called the advertised neighbors.
Yeah, I'm sure. Neighbors.
Correct. You can check what are the advertisements that you advertise out to the neighbors. So we can actually do that on the Nsx gateway, right? So so it's things like this, right? So if let's say from the systems team they haven't gone through the physical networking and things like that, then I think it's kind of like they need to start learning if they want to start going to NSX and things like that. I wouldn't say it's impossible, it's just that it's just a bit possible. If you compare them to more network engineer, right, then they got more things to learn.
I think it's almost time.
It's almost time. We are right at an hour. I maybe I will just show you the last thing of, like, the segments thing, right? Okay, you can see here, I think the port now is 1, right? And we have power on the virtual machine, right? So, and what you can do is actually just log in, just do a ping test to the virtual machine. So if you click on the virtual machine, you can see the IP address is 16.0.14, right? So we can just there you go. Voila. Cool. You just connected a workload VM to the newly created logical segment that you just created.
Okay.
So this is just, this is really very simple example to show you and things like that. Of course, you can do other tests and you can do other modules. But I just thought that maybe I just share, this hands-on lab with the folks over here. So do start to look into hands-on lab. Okay, wow, time's really flying, right? It's really 1 hour. We talk a lot and so anyway, any other words? If not, I will just do the closing.
I think we can do the closing. Maybe we can share what are the activities planned for the next round.
So I'm thinking a little bit more on, like, today we talk about networking. Maybe the next week I will start talking about if I can find a speaker, I'll find a speaker. If not, I'll do it myself. We will talk a little bit on the Nsx security.
Nsx security.
So today we do networking, right? And then after Nsx security, we'll talk about load balancer and things like that. So every week we have something a little bit different.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
So anything from you before we close it off?
Nothing.
Okay,
I'm good.
Okay, so really, hey, thanks, Kian Wah. So thanks for doing this with us, and hopefully we get this going, and we post all the things on YouTube, right? And and hopefully to grow this community and things like that. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Take care, guys. Bye bye.